Well, it's this time of the week again.
Is it? What time is that?
The time for
11:34?
the people to open their podcast app and search up Joe Rogan, realize that there's no new episode,
So then go to their secondary podcast.
which is
Not us still.
It's still not us.
It's some random
It's
podcast.
some other podcast, on some popular media network.
And now we've taken over your phone.
Yep.
And you can't
We
pause
were your 10th option, and now we're right now. If you stop the broadcast, stop what's playing.
Broadcast.
Yeah, what's playing on your phone, you're actively going against my wishes and desires.
Yes, don't hurt Ben's feelings.
Imagine how that makes me feel. So you need to listen to this episode of The Movie Vault,
in which we review a very beloved movie, right? Because it comes from a beloved studio.
That's right. It's Luca. Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Luca.
And sorry for the extremely awkward introduction to the podcast. And then by acknowledging it and acknowledging the acknowledgement, I'm making it even more awkward, which is what I tend to do with these opening bits. So
and then
you
we
gotta
usually
just be
talk
okay
about
with it.
that. And then I usually bring up the fact that we're talking about it.
We just are way too self-critical. Well, not self-critical, but just like self-aware of the very last thing that we did. And then at least I always feel the need to like bring up the last thing so that way everyone knows that I know what I just did.
But do you want them to know?
Yeah, is it better? It'd be better probably for people to just think that I didn't know, and then they can excuse it because I wasn't trying to make the situation awkward. But instead, now I'm saying, no, I actively knew that was happening, or at least a second after.
We're kind of tryhards, though.
Yeah, I think this is we're kind of tryhards in this
Luca!
regard. Yeah, so Luca is a movie that's it's a kind of a heartwarming tale.
Aww.
It's about friendship, and it was directed by Enrico Casarosa.
Very nice.
Who is directing his first ever Pixar film. So there's been a lot of legendary directors.
Yeah, he did a Pixar short before.
Okay.
But this is his first actual film. So
like feature-length film. Yep. The Pete Docters, the Andrew Stantons, the Lee Unriches, Brad Birds.
Definitely butchered all those names.
They're well known in the Pixar world for doing a lot of the movies, but there's got to be time for a new face and a new voice, I guess.
As every single every single studio is looking to expand in this year. We have to figure out how we can get new products and new toys to sell. So we have to have new directors, new franchises, and new money.
Yes. New money is incredibly important because without money, this whole entertainment industry would die. And then what would we be left with to do with our life?
No money.
No money and no entertainment.
But more importantly, no money.
Yeah. I don't know. Entertainment's sometimes more than money in our culture.
Not to the big businesses.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Because if entertainment was really the most important thing, they would make a lot of different movies than they make. But sometimes it's that I think people don't know what they need, They get what they want, but they don't get what they need.
Well, this movie, as you said, you told me off the cast that it's very broad. It's like going for a very broad audience.
Oh, yeah.
It's going for all ages, all types of humans.
Yeah, and that's generally Pixar's model. And it's a model that for most film studios does not work. Like, generally speaking, broad, like movies that try to go to... they just become like wishy-washy because they're trying to do too many things. But Pixar somehow has nailed the formula to just know how to have so many different layers so that different generations can see, like the parent, the child, and the grandparent can all like see bits of their life and their past life and things that they've learned.
Their past life.
Their past. Well, not their past.
Before they got reincarnated.
That's not what I meant. Anyway, this movie was released this year, so it's the first movie that came out in 2021 that we've reviewed, I think. And we don't know what its budget was or how much it grossed.
Disney Plus movie.
Because yeah, it's released on Disney Plus, so that's very hard to calculate. I guess the box office says it was 5 million, but I'm sure they're making more in subscriptions or whatever.
That's just their standard. They're like, we need to put a box office. Just put a 5 on there.
Yeah, it's like on Judge Judy.
Five what?
On Judge Judy, you can sue up to 5,000, so everyone sues for 5,000 to try to get the most amount of money. They usually
Yeah.
don't get that much, but you gotta try.
Yep.
It has a Rotten Tomato score of 90% too.
Very good.
All right, so Botch Watcher Top Notch, real quick.
Comparing to Pixar movies, which I think we should watch.
Yeah, this is a watch. There's very few botches in Pixar's. I would say
Cars 3.
Cars 3. I've not seen all of Brave, but I've seen most of it, and it
Brave.
was kind of yeah, Brave. Finding Dory.
Finding Dory's okay.
No, I don't like Finding Dory at all.
Ben's a very very committed Finding Nemo fan.
Yeah, I think that's why I don't like Finding Dory, because it doesn't feel at all like Finding Nemo, and Finding Nemo
Nemo's
was
not there.
almost a perfect movie. And,
I agree. I
Yeah.
think it's great.
but yeah, this is definitely I'd say this is like in the middle pack for me. I don't know exactly where I would put it.
Would you put it above Soul? That was the latest one.
No, Soul is at top tier.
Okay.
It's like in my top 3.
So that's where we differentiate. I would put this above Soul.
Wow, how?
Because
I feel like this shouldn't even be a debate. Soul is so much better.
I really like Soul. Soul's my number 7, but Luca's my number 6 all of a sudden.
Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad that for once Zach likes a movie more than I do, because I feel like it's usually the other way around, and it might be just because I usually end up picking the movies more often than other people.
Yeah, that we never put that factor in.
Yeah.
That you are the one choosing the movies.
I like, we have this list, but we don't follow it super closely, and generally speaking, I'm like, I really want to show everyone this movie. But then you get the sad reality of that not everyone likes certain movies as much as you do.
And-
so it's generally sometimes disappointing.
And Ben picks very nice movies, but some of them are just really weird.
Yeah,
to be
because
honest.
that's the kind of movie that I like.
Yeah.
But not everyone's wired the way that I'm wired, I guess.
Yeah.
And some people like more straightforward movies like this one.
Yes, I agree.
Because Luca is just about, it's a pretty, normal plot about a sea monster who can also turn into a human.
Pretty normal.
And he meets a friend of course his parents don't want him to escape. Now that's a super common premise. Overprotective parents. Goes back to Finding Nemo.
Yep. Goes back to Incredibles.
Although, I'll get to that in plot holes later.
Okay.
Oh, well, and maybe I should just address
Just
it now
say
because I'll
what?
forget it. Because I think they didn't set up the parents' relationship with the kid that well. Because they're so briefly involved and they're just super overprotective. There's no other there's no stories as to why they're so protective. Like in Finding Nemo, at the start of the movie, Marlin's wife, I forget what her name is, gets
know.
killed by a barracuda,
Sarah.
and it's extremely oh my god, and all the kids
The baby
die.
eggs.
And there's only one left, and it's just this huge emotional moment, and you can understand why Marlin is so
awkward with his son.
protective of Nemo, because he's had this huge tragedy happen in his life. None of that in this movie. You just have overprotectivism for no reason, and it doesn't explain why. What the sea monsters haven't explained to humans that they can turn into humans and turn back into sea monsters and be perfectly civil. That didn't make sense to me either.
What could a sea monster that doesn't seem to be super ferocious or scary have done?
They essentially act like humans under the water. I mean, Luca is a shepherd. The fish he has are sort of like sheep. So it's
had
a
a question-
Cars reference because the tractors in Cars are like sheep.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I think Pixar is starting to recycle a few ideas, but
Maybe, yeah. I mean, they're doing everything. I will say, when I remember the scene where they're fishing. I know we haven't gotten through the plot yet, but when they're fishing, I'm wondering Luca helped the dad fish. What if he accidentally killed his own shepherd, the ones that he's trying to shepherd?
yeah. Oh yeah, that's like eating your pet or something.
Yeah, let's eat a bunch of dogs.
He's like, oh, let's go fish over this spot.
He's like, I've always wanted to taste the fish.
Also, they're sea monsters, which implies that they're scaly and sort of fish-related
They are.
creatures.
They have
But then,
scales.
do you eat fish when you become a human? Like that's sort of what you're talking about. Like not just the fish you own, but
You mean,
any
does your
fish in general.
digestive system change?
Yeah, sort of.
Yes, that's my answer.
Yes. Okay, we'll go with
It's the
that.
only thing that works because we would have to have different bodies, obviously, if one
Yeah.
can breathe underwater,
Yeah,
work
that's
underwater,
true.
and the other one doesn't.
It's amazing how fast that they can transition back and forth.
Yeah.
Alberto Scorfano is the friend that he meets who is living in a tower and collecting human things, but they get really obsessed with the Vespa, which is a type of scooter, and they want to get one. But then, unfortunately, Luca's parents find out about him. He's going to have to go live with his uncle Hugo, who lives in the trenches of the deep sea.
Another thing, they didn't really say. It was kind of odd that they just said we're sending you with him, with
Yeah.
no further conversation
And
about
it
it.
didn't explain really what the point was for what is sending him there for a couple of months really gonna do to help him learn.
I mean, obviously they're probably trying to make sure that he doesn't go to the surface, but like, what is that actually?
They're
gonna
still
do?
not teaching him why the surface is dangerous if that's their concern. They're just saying go further away from the surface, and of course he just runs away because like what else are you gonna do then?
Yeah,
it
and
doesn't make sense. They didn't explain it in a way that made sense, so he's gonna be like I'm not doing this, and he goes above sea. They go to the city because they're trying to get a Vespa, and they meet. Who do they meet? Julia. Yeah, Julia. Or what do they? What does the one guy call her?
Giuliano.
No, like Sulia or something.
Oh,
like
Spulia.
Spulia, because she always throws up during the little race thing. So they have this Ponterosso race, which is an odd type of triathlon in which you swim, eat a whole bowl of pasta as fast as you can, and then
Bike.
up a mountain.
It doesn't seem that hard, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess unless eating a lot of carbs is hard. Well, I'm not good at swimming, so that part would be hard for me, but the rest of it wouldn't
Just
be
use
terrible.
a scuba diving suit.
Oh, well, especially if I could split up into a team, then I would not. I'd probably do the pasta part, honestly.
I'd probably do the eating. too.
Okay, so we would
Yeah.
both do the eating.
We would split that.
Zach and I are both pretty, like, skinny and stuff, but we can still eat quite a bit.
Yeah, Ben way more than me.
Yeah, I can really put down. My metabolism is really treating me well at this point in my life.
Give it a couple years.
Yeah, stop all the miles of running and give it a few more years, and
Yeah.
that will change. But for now, enjoying that ability.
Anyway, Luca's grandmother was the person. She mentioned that she's been to the surface before, and she's kind of like not orchestrating the whole thing, but she knows where what's gonna happen. Like she knows that Luca's gonna go up, and then she sees him escape, and she just laughs. Like she doesn't say anything to the parents, and then Luca goes up. He goes on all these adventures. He's with Julia and Alberto. I always forget his name. And they're training for this thing, and there's also training for the race, but they're also being bullied basically by this guy named
Ercole.
Ercole. That's what it was. Ercole Visconti, and he's definitely this kind of jerk. Like what do you have, like a scooter?
Yeah, he has a Vespa that they want, and he's rich. It's implied that he's rich, and he's won 5 straight, and is probably too old to really be competing. Like this is supposed to be for a younger age. At first, I didn't realize that he's probably supposed to be like 18 or so, and he's like trying to pass for 16.
And he's just a disgusting character. Do you see? He was like he was trying to do a swirly in the fountain to Luca, and like he's always slapping his subordinates. They weren't even subordinates. They're just 2 kids following him. Why would they?
Yeah,
follow
and
him?
everybody thinks that he's cool because he won 5, but he treats
But the
everyone
thing
like
is,
horribly.
People don't even think he's cool. They're just scared of him.
Yeah.
Because then he's like, "Who likes me?" So then he like everybody raises their hand like out of fear.
Yeah.
So he's a character. I mean, he doesn't really play a lot into the plot. He's kind of just like the central antagonist to keep the story going.
Right.
So
Yeah, he gets what's coming to him by the end, but they have to go through a few more obstacles in that Luca's parents try to find him, and then eventually Julia gets the attention of Luca more so than Alberto, and Alberto starts getting a little jealous, and then they get into a fight about it, and Alberto reveals to Julia that he's a sea monster, but as he's doing so, Luca like pretends he's not a sea monster in the moment.
It all happens so fast.
Which Alberto, and then Ercole is trying to come kill him, like literally like harpoon him. So he's not even protecting his friend, and I think he starts to regret it. But it does happen very quickly. But then it's pretty soon after that Julia spills some water on purpose onto Luca and realizes that he's also a sea monster. So he has to go make amends with Alberto.
But Alberto actually comes to him.
No, he goes to Alberto in the tower.
Yeah, but then he says go away, and then doesn't Alberto the one?
No, then he asks about the marks on the wall. Remember?
Oh, yeah, okay, I guess you're right, that's more...
Well, he does ask about, and then we find out that his dad didn't die, which is, I think, what sort of I assumed at the start of the movie is that his dad was dead, but his dad just left him.
Yeah.
He, like, abandoned him. So it's sort of worse than him dying, because if he had died, it would be like he couldn't help the abandonment, but he was actually had abandoned his son and left him to live on his own. And he was hoping he came back, and then eventually he stopped counting because it was so long. But you're right. Then he goes back to the town to try to fix everything. He does the race separately from Julia, and he figures out a way to swim without revealing that he's a sea monster, barely. He eats the pasta, and then they start going up the mountain, biking. He's really good at biking at this point, and he passes Ercole. And then it starts to rain, which really starts to mess up his plan.
Oh, what about the timing on that?
Yeah. And then Alberto decides comes and brings an umbrella, but before he can get to there, Ercole cruelly knocks him to the ground, and then Alberto is revealed to everybody as being a sea monster because of the rain, and the umbrella is not over him. And then Ercole tries to get him with a net, but then Luca also reveals he's a sea monster, rescues him. They win the race, and then at the end, Julia's dad, who was sort of an important character that I failed to mention, he only has one arm. He's a huge buff dude who fishes, and he had really taken a liking to Luca and especially Alberto, I think, because of the pasta eating and the fishing. They were both really good at fishing. I wonder why. But he makes the decision that the sea monsters are obviously friendly because they haven't changed other than their look. Which I guess we find out that sea monsters can, I guess because the water is on them, they can still be on land. They're on land as, I don't know, it's kind of weird to think
They
about.
can do whatever they want.
They're basically, yeah, you can sort of do what they want.
They can have clothes. They don't have to have clothes. Either way, they're not going to show up naked. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that was kind of like, they had to do that, but it was weird. I guess they could have done like tricks.
They gave Luca shorts in the water.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay,
most people had clothes, I think.
Oh, that makes sense. So, and then, what was I going to say? So then Ercole has lost the race at this point, and it's really like a sad sort of thing that, you know, that, well, it's not sad, it's I don't know, I lost my train of thought.
Basically, it's like everything happy kind of happens in the last, like...
Yeah, it's the opposite of what
I
said.
The 1 minute of the movie, like, all of a sudden, they win the race, they get Julia's dad's approval.
Ercole gets thrown, and everyone doesn't think he's cool anymore.
Yeah.
And Alberto figures out a way to convince Luca's parents to let him go to school with Julia and learn. And education is the most important thing in life.
Oh.
So
some professors got involved in the writing of this movie.
Yeah, so it all works out, and yeah, it's so fairly, you know, aside from the confusion about how the sea monsters work, it's kind of a straightforward tale.
Yeah, I mean
that you can see themes from other Pixar movies shown in like strain in parental relationship with children, friendship, and figuring out who you trust and becoming more confident in yourself and that sort of thing. And ultimately becoming unafraid at the end.
It's a coming-of-age story, just like every Pixar movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it sort of is a coming-of-age story. Oh, that's what Italy set coming-of-age story is how Pixar described it when they first announced the movie on July 30th, 2020.
Wow, we're so smart that we know that date.
Yeah, I wonder where we found that from. So, here's the influences. So, This is amazing.
What?
This makes me respect this so much more. When I started this movie, or when this movie was in Italian, I said, "Oh, one of my favorite movies is Italian." 8.5. This movie pays homage to the director of that movie, Federico Fellini, who is one of the classic, Italian filmmakers. I could see that a little bit. Although this movie doesn't have too many direct comparisons to 8.5, other than maybe a few parts of the reflection on his childhood, on Fellini's childhood. But I can see the sort of Italian influence on the film. And then Miyazaki, who is of course known for making, many famous anime movies, including like Spirited Away and those sort of movies. And then there's, I think Wes Anderson's stop motion movies also influence some of the like artistic sensibilities. So that's kind of interesting to see the influences. But I love that Fellini was like a main influence.
That just made Ben's day.
Because now I sound really smart knowing who that is.
Yeah.
I've only watched like 2 of his movies, but the other one I watched was called The Clowns, and it was like a mockumentary about clowns. It was kind of boring, but kind of interesting.
That sounds really interesting, actually.
It wasn't quite the direction that I was expecting it to go. Like, it was literally just about like circus clowns, and then they'd go interview like these circus clowns in their old age, and then there'd just be like circus performances in the middle. Like, it definitely felt like a documentary, but then there was parts that were like sort of so like intended to make you laugh or whatever, that it was like not real. I don't know, it sort of blurred the lines between like being real and being fake. It was interesting. But the quote of the movie is Silenzio Bruno, which is supposed to be the thing that he said whenever he was afraid. And then I have a review from one of our guests who was on our podcast in the past, and that would be Jonathan Young.
Yeah.
Who was on our podcast during, which episode was it? Casino Royale.
Yes, and he had to come over Zoom or
Yeah.
something.
And he wanted to be here tonight, but he couldn't be because he was working. So he gave me a review to read. And this one's not an outsider review because it's not pessimistic. So he says, masterful animation that makes me feel shameful of my own creations. By the way, Jonathan is a very talented animator. I've seen his work, so I don't think he should be ashamed. He just doesn't have the access to the technology that these people have access to. Beautiful visuals, a well-developed premise, music that is downright great, albeit not memorable, in his opinion. Great characters, a villain who feels threatening throughout a solid portion of the runtime, and a story that is undoubtedly the weakest link, but gets slightly better upon reflection. And then he says, has a humorous section, Questo film fa un po' schifo ricotta, which is Italian for something, but I'm not going to do the work to figure out what. So we appreciate that review, Jonathan, and I definitely can see like where he's coming from on a lot of that. Like, I think I get some of the. This film is like fairly uplifting, and it's like sort of whimsical, I guess. And the animation is. Pixar always seems to have a way to make their animation look even more impressive every movie that they make.
Yeah, I agree. I think The Incredibles 2 was the peak of that for me.
Really?
I think
Soul was the peak of Pixar animation for me.
Yeah, that was really good. But like, there was a scene in Incredibles 2 where like Jack was in a crib and you could see like the tiny little hairs and wrinkles on the top of his head.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, whoa, this is like real life.
Yeah, I think there were some parts of this movie that I was like, oh, the animators are definitely just showing off right here.
They're like, yeah, we have billions of dollars.
Because the transition between scaled and human was like very detailed. It happened quickly because I think they maybe had to do it like, or for the plot of the movie, it had to happen quickly to work. But it still looked extremely like impressive. But we still have to give you a pessimistic outsider review because you can always be a pessimist. Job. Yeah. And so Charles Solomon from Film Week, KPCC, NPR Los Angeles, NPR guy, this is the government's review of the movie.
The federal government approves this movie.
Actually, they don't, because he says, while I give Pixar points for trying things. Well, first of all, Pixar, give credit to the director. I'm just kidding. For trying things a little simpler and making some of the animation a little bit more cartoony in places. It's very talky and very familiar. Meaning that it doesn't, maybe there's not as many sections that the film is given to just breathe and just take in the scenery. And a lot of the premise is sort of like been done by Pixar before. It's not anything necessarily entirely new.
Yeah, it's an hour and 40-something minutes with credits, so it's a shorter end of movies. So they do kind of have to go like from point to point throughout the whole thing.
Do you own a house under the sea?
Yes.
Or a boat that goes above the sea?
Both, actually.
Well, you might need, I don't know, insurance on those things.
I do, actually.
Especially the house under the sea, because it seems like that could be like subject to a lot of different variations.
Yeah, it's hard to cook my meals.
Yeah. So Hedman Anglin Agency, or HAA, is known for saving people money. Well known in the area that we live in. For saving people money on auto, home, and business insurance. And I think I would bet that you could also get some information on boat insurance there too, because I'm pretty sure you'll need that if you have a boat. So if you're interested in any of this at all, call 614-486-7300. That's 614-486-7300. And if you do so, make sure you tell them that the Movie Vault sent you.
Yeah.
The first person who we hear does this is going to get like
1,000 somethings.
Yeah.
I don't want to say dollars.
Probably pats on the back.
Yeah.
Or something.
Actually, I don't got time for that.
That is a lot of time. We're not going to promise anything, but if we ever hear that somebody actually takes us up on this, we're going to be pretty excited. And I'm serious. This is actually a way to save money. Don't just settle for your below average insurance. Make your insurance work for you.
Above average.
Yeah.
Good job.
Above average.
Good job, HAA.
You never want below average. You always want above average.
Yeah. Good job, HAA.
Okay.
Do that.
We're gonna
go into our talking points.
Yeah, the 10 talking points. Dun-dun-dun. So, sentiment.
Ooh, this meant a lot to me. I think that was pretty clear. I can't really resonate with any human, but Pixar does resonate with me because they make
even Zach.
Computers can become humans.
I feel like you would resonate with the characters in the movies Blade Runner, because they're very like lacking in emotion, you know, and they're very like straightforward, and then the movies have them like they reveal more and more sides of their emotion. But Pixar can relate even to Zach, so I think that is just
nothing beats the Predator. I can relate to the Predator.
The Predator.
That was a joke. Or Bambi. I can relate to Thumper.
Thumper. You can relate to Scrooge McDuck in the Disney Christmas Carol,
or just I can relate to Scrooge and like just Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah, but he's the part of Ebenezer Scrooge that's giving away lots of money and stuff.
No, the one that's in the beginning taking the stuff away from everyone.
Sentimentally, this movie didn't really mean a whole lot to me because it felt a little bit repetitive from other things. But it also was like not lacking in meaning entirely. So it's more like middle of the road, but I can appreciate the parts of it that I saw. But I think Finding Nemo does a lot of this movie better.
It does. This is ranked number 7 or 6 for me, but Finding Nemo's above it. Yeah. Way above it. So
there might be a little gap there.
Yeah.
The message of the movie I think is sort of, I don't know whether it's weak, but it's not one of the deepest messages they've ever done, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't ring true.
It's a message that you could have predicted from the very beginning.
Yeah,
unlike
it's
Soul,
somewhat predictable message.
Unlike Soul, where you don't know where it's going.
And it's a fairly open for interpretation message, you know?
Yeah. Like,
they leave it kind of open-ended so you can fill in whatever interpretation you want, which is okay, except for...
And don't you love ambiguity?
I love ambiguity, but in this context, I'm not sure I like it as much.
Okay. You don't like animated ambiguity.
Yeah, maybe I'm so used to Pixar, like, making me feel a particular way, and now when they're like, okay, here's some room to figure out how you feel, I'm like, no, I want you to tell me.
Snuggle me. Don't give me room.
Yeah. The plot is, it's all right.
I think what Jonathan said was kind of true. Like, it was a little bit weaker on the plot, like just
It's a-
because
it's
it
a-
wasn't as deep.
It's a lot lower stakes, I think.
Yeah, it's
Like
like a
there's
bike
like,
race.
oh yeah, they're gonna get stabbed with a harpoon. Like yeah,
Yeah, right.
we're gonna see somebody get sea monster get stabbed with a harpoon. No, we're not.
I wish.
But the stakes were a lot lower than like Soul, or Up,
the stakes of Soul were like the whole universe.
or like life and death. Yeah, there was like so much at stake.
And then like this is like, oh, we're gonna lose a bike race. you
yeah,
know?
exactly. I'm not gonna be able to go to school.
I'm not gonna get a Vespa.
I'm not gonna be able to get a good solid education.
And then there's Coco, like finding the line between life and death and trying to save his family
Yeah, that's what
from
I'm saying.
disappearing forever.
I think there's been a lot of Pixar movies about like death. So then when you make one that's not about death,
I bet you they make a
it's-
movie called Life. Just
yeah,
Life.
they will. It'll just be called
It's,
Life.
Pixar's really good at one word
Yeah,
things.
like Up or
Up.
like
Soul, Coco, Luca.
I would think Up.
Cars.
Up is more. Well, all their movies are about death. Are really about life. Like that's the point of Pixar movies. Like you discuss death to understand the meaning of life. I think is like where they're coming from.
And they come to different conclusions in each movie.
Yeah, it's really dependent on, I guess, like
Situations.
situations and what probably the director, whoever writes or influences the movie the most, kind of
Yeah.
their view on life is. The character arcs were good, but they were a little quick.
I had one problem. It didn't make sense to me for Luca to just leave his family behind like that.
That's
And
true.
then
It's like he
just-
had no attachment to his family at all.
Yeah, he let. I can relate to that. That's why I relate to this movie. I'm just joking. That was a joke. But he leaves and he doesn't even think about anything he left behind. He goes straight into his new life, and then when he's fighting with, I think this was a mistake in the movie. When he's fighting with Alberto and they get into a big fight and they're like hitting each other and stuff like that, he says to Alberto, "I want to go to school." And I think the fact that he was thinking about that when his new life is falling apart, like it's not working out, him and Alberto are kind of fighting right now, and like it's just not working out situationally. He should fall back on his old life, right? But he thinks about school, which is
Yeah.
kind of odd, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was like just
Yeah, like what kid is gonna be like, I want to go to school. That's my most important motivation over my family.
When he
And
just learned about
and it's
it.
not even like his family was bad. Like it's not like he came from a family that was, like they maybe didn't make all the right choices, which is true of every family, and they didn't like parent him in a way that he understood. So as he had more, as he became more independent in his thought, he maybe couldn't relate as well to his parents, but they didn't seem to set up their family in a way that like he respected their authority. So then he just sort of did what he wanted. But then it was like at the start of the movie, he was like afraid to do anything against his family, and then all of a sudden there's just this
Yeah.
like sudden switch.
So Luca's kind of character arc was a little off for me, but it was just weird because like when his new life, he goes to his new life, leaves his family behind. When his new life is falling apart, the thing he's worried about is that he's not going to go to school, and not about, oh, I left my family. Never once did he say, I left my family, I feel bad.
I left my family behind. Like they miss me. They're worried about me.
Yeah,
like,
that's what normal movies where someone runs away talks about.
like Nemo.
Yes, exactly.
Like he's thinking about getting back to his dad because he loves his dad. It doesn't seem like Luca actually loves his parents.
Imagine Nemo leaving and he's like, my dad's worried about me. Instead of that, he says, oh, actually, I want to go to school. Like,
Wait, there could be some deeper like hints at where they're like pushing society in this movie to where they're trying to like detach kids from families and attach them instead to like educational systems.
so
Like-
that they can buy more products.
Like as the like I don't mean to get conspiratorial here, but if the government can influence, or the government or whoever, universities or private institutions, corporations,
same.
whatever.
just joking.
Any of those institutions working together can have more influence over kids than their parents, then they can be more efficient workers,
Alberto's
more
not real.
efficient members of society. We're really getting at some really like
Yeah, but then, like-
subconscious like meaning behind this movie.
Yeah, but then Soul was the exact opposite. He was worried about everything he'd done already and like worried about his family. I just think this was just a complete change of direction from like Pixar's themes in the past.
Yeah, they're trying to get everyone to care the most in life about school, and then
Maybe it's not
everything
Pixar
else is
thinking that.
second.
Maybe it's just Enrico,
Maybe it's,
the director. Maybe he's just the one.
that's why I'm like, who do we blame this on? Hopefully not Pete Docter. He's always come through like pretty strongly, and in most other movies, but he's the the president now, so he obviously okayed this.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I can't say that I necessarily agree with that part of the movie as much. But it's a part that most people probably won't even notice.
Yeah,
So
unless you're us.
unless you're us and
Or
you're like really
other
picking it
people will
apart.
probably talk about it, honestly, on YouTube.
We
go to them,
honestly,
don't.
this would be a great video to like start off our YouTube channel that never really took off
Yeah.
because we could talk a lot. There's a lot of different but it's like almost only like 2 or 3 different small parts of the movie that we're basing this entire like theory on.
Yeah, but they're integral parts. They're the parts when decisions are being made, like
Right,
to
that
affect the
affect
rest of the
the-
movie. It's
yeah.
like you expected his new life to not work out, right?
Yeah.
So the whole movie, you're like, in the beginning of the movie, you're like, oh, he's gonna go to the surface. They keep talking about it, and then the second part of the movie, you're like, oh, his new life isn't gonna work out. But then it's in that moment when you're like, okay, I don't know where this movie's going. You predicted the beginning parts, but you don't know where it's gonna go in that moment when he's fighting with Alberto.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I want to go to school instead of.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. I thought Alberto's storyline was okay. He's like trying to be a man, like trying to think that pretend that he knows everything, trying to help this kid out, which is
Yeah.
very sweet. But
There's definitely a personality type that would relate.
Yeah, like, I
I'm
know
not,
people.
I'm not as much like that where I'm just like I'm putting on an act of confidence. Like I definitely probably show my
Yeah.
lack of confidence more.
Yeah, Ben's a loser.
Obviously, but some people are really good at like hiding their insecurities or confidence and masking it over sort of a performance, and that's sort of what the Alberto character is getting at.
and then Julia, what was hers?
I don't
Gotta
know.
win that race. Oh,
Yeah.
I lost again. Didn't throw up though.
And you got to be friends with these other guys so that they can, because it's important to the plot. That's true. Her character was not really that interesting if you really think about
Her
it.
character arc is, oh, these two are best friends. I'm gonna split them up.
I'm a weird loser who nobody likes, and all I care about is winning a race and going to school. But I don't really have any flaws. So other than I'm weird and everyone thinks I'm weird, but that's their flaw, not
And my
my
dad
flaw.
will always support me.
Even when money is tight, which
Oh,
we'll
that's
just,
so nice though.
yeah.
The dad was great in this movie.
I was at first I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a real fierce character, but then he was like such a like warm
Oh
and
my
loving
gosh.
guy.
When he went out to go try to find Alberto, he's like, I don't think he wants anyone looking for him. He goes, maybe not, but I'll at least try. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet of him.
Yeah. But one area of the film I think we can agree upon is that the cinematography or the animation, I guess,
Beautiful.
is amazing, and the color palette and choice. Yeah, they said it was influenced by Wes Anderson. I think the coloring is sort of one of the like Wes Anderson.
Lighter.
Wes Anderson usually picks certain colors and then makes the movie sort of based around those colors more so than other directors. So there was a lot of like light blues, light greens,
Yeah.
and like pastel colors,
Yeah.
kind of like my shirt. I mean, these are more faded, but like
Everybody saw your shirt just now.
yeah, it's although I guess it's not exactly like my shirt, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like the pastel sort of thing is definitely like prevalent, and it has to do with it being sea related.
And the sun's always in the background. The sea looked like an actual ocean, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
maybe not the waves, but they did that on purpose. But like when they were in the Riviera and it was kind of showed the background, like it looked like real water.
Yeah.
Like the sun shining.
I still think that Finding Nemo holds up though. Like in terms of animation, I know the animation has gotten a lot better.
Yeah, but how did
I
they do
still
that back
go
then?
to old Finding Nemo, which was way back in the start of Pixar, kind of.
How did they
And
do
it's
that?
still like breathtaking to me. Like that's one of the things that I remember about that movie
Just
is how big
think
the
about-
ocean is.
Think about the other movies coming out at that time.
Yeah,
Like how crappy those action movies were.
yeah.
Or
Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, there were some good movies coming out at the time of Finding Nemo. Memento would have come out around that time.
I just think of the movie like The Incredible Hulk. Like the CGI in that was horrible, and that came out in 2008.
Or like Ghost Rider in 2007 had horrible CGI.
Like all these movies sucked, and then you have Nemo, which came out like 2004,
2003, I think. And it was
Wow.
incredible. And the Incredibles in 2004 was still pretty good too.
I
like,
think
in terms
Nemo,
of humans.
I think Nemo looked better than
Oh yeah.
Incredibles
No,
and Toy Story.
Nemo has got to be one of the ones that over time it's like shocking how much it's held up. Although I'll probably go back and watch it and be like, oh yeah, I'd notice more. Like because I think as much as I don't like Finding Dory, they did like there's certain things they improved upon. but there were certain like intangibles about Finding Nemo. Anyway, I'm getting like fanboying over here about Pixar.
Fanboy.
Originality, I think this one gets pretty low marks. I mean,
It's Pixar, so you got that heartwarming story. So I expected that, and then I expected everything to turn out well. We need a Pixar movie where everyone dies.
Yeah, that's the only thing we need. A tragedy.
Yeah.
I don't think that could ever happen though, because
Just one word,
kids.
death.
Aren't mature enough to be able to deal with tragedy.
They
in
will
movies.
be if we detach them from their parents through movies like these.
Yeah, if we detach them and then we make
That's-
them emotionless beings who are capable of making decisions that are the
Ben.
most efficient and not what it matter like is most helpful to caring about people. That way we can make more money and
Yes.
businesses can be more profitable.
That's what
That's
I was
what the
thinking.
point of this movie is, by the way.
They only want to detach people from their own lives so that they can make new movies that for new audiences that have different tastes now, so to stay relevant and make money.
Man, I think Pixar's coming apart a little bit. Honestly, after the talking about some of their, obviously what they're trying to accomplish by these films.
I guess that's true, yeah.
The acting, I guess, in this movie, because I don't feel like there's a whole lot to talk about with originality.
The voices fit, honestly.
Yeah, I've never heard of a lot of the people, which is odd because usually they get a couple of big names to sort of,
Tom Holland and Chris Pratt.
or Jamie Foxx, or
Yeah.
and they usually do a good job, and you don't notice that as much, but like the recognizable names on here are like Jim Gaffigan plays the dad.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he's
the
a comedian. Yeah, and then Maya Rudolph is also a comedian. She plays.
Oh, she's in The Good Place.
What is she? Who is she? Oh, she's the mother. But everyone else, I think some of them don't even have Wikipedia pages, because I think one of them looks like he might be an actual like Italian actor. Jacob Tremblay was in the movie Room, which was an artsy kind of movie that I think A24 probably produced it. A lot of people like that movie. And then somebody who was in It was Alberto. So Luca was played by the guy from Room, Jacob Tremblay, and then Jack Dylan Grazer, who was in It, was
Chapter
Alberto.
1 or Chapter 2?
I think the first one. He was also Freddie Freeman in DC Extended. Seems like he was a big deal. I'm just kidding.
Bigger deal than us.
Wait, he was in Robot Chicken as Freddie Freeman. Anyway. Oh yeah, he's much bigger deal than us. I say that sort of facetious.
What? Not for long.
Not for long. I'm telling you, even though we have experienced almost no growth and we're pretty like plateau in terms of our podcast.
That's our fault, though.
Oh, it is 100% our fault. But at one point we'll, put in enough work that it'll actually be successful.
One day when it's gonna come, the time is gonna
consistency
come.
is the most important thing, and we're like at least kind of consistent.
We're 80% consistent.
Yeah, I slip up. I'm a lot of the
Yeah, but Ben does all the work, so when he slips up, it's me not taking on the slack, so he slips up.
Yeah, kind of, I guess. That's if you're wondering any behind the scenes. The style is really good, fits in with cinematography and animation.
Yeah, I think so. The sea monsters, the Rivera, yeah.
Yeah, everything. Very, very good touches of
the themes
of beauty, and even the scene with like the anchovy stars and the anchovy sun. Like, there's a lot of
cool.
cool.
Yeah, his dream sequences were cool.
Yeah,
not as cool as the Mysterio
I think that
dream
was
sequence.
the part that reminded me most of Fellini, because Fellini, like in 8.5, goes in between a lot of dream sequences in his characters. Now, in Fellini's movies, it's confusing because he's more of a surrealist director at times, so it's harder to tell what's a dream and what's supposed to be like the real part of the movie. Of course, none of it's real, so that's like, of course, sort of the point with that sort of thing too. But that I think was played homage to Fellini's style, which I really can appreciate as somebody who's, I've watched some pretty fancy and artistic movies in my time.
Ben's eyes work.
My eyes work and my mind can process things.
Yes.
All right. Score. I noticed that I do think it was maybe not memorable, but it was like solid.
I don't remember it at all.
That's why I remember.
I've
like
seen it twice.
I agree with Jonathan in his synopsis that it's like really good, but it's not memorable. So I mean that's fine because it gets its job done. And the choreography with the scales back and forth and swimming and racing, it's all pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it when they were punching.
Yeah. Or when he has to punch the heart of his uncle.
Oh yeah, or when the dad pushes that kid into the water.
Yeah.
I like that part a lot.
All right. So, what would be your letter grade for a movie like
B
this?
plus.
I give this a B minus.
Ooh,
So
that's bad.
it's not bad.
B minus is an 80%.
That's not bad.
That's horrible. I'm okay. I'm saying in Pixar movies.
I get a
maybe.
B minus. And oh my god. No, I'm
No,
just
in
kidding.
Pixar movies, maybe it's okay.
No, I
Compared to the all movies
compared
ever.
to I guess okay. Yeah, I think I'd still go B minus. I mean, I could see it moving up to a B, but like, I think if anything, talking through it has made me like it a little bit less even than I did when we first started
You're
this.
welcome.
But I can respect the B plus.
Yeah.
I think just like we want different things out of like these types of movies.
I want action and drama and big explosions, and Ben just wants someone to do something different than another movie.
Yeah, or I want like big like sort of existential concepts to be or philosophical.
But aren't they all the same
commentaries on
question?
life.
Aren't they all just digging after what life is?
Yeah, that's true. Every movie is just digging after what life is.
And just from different perspectives of characters.
Yes,
And
but
then
that's what's
and then
interesting.
if they ask that question, is it that deep even? If it's been asked before?
But then if you watch a movie that's like it's not clear what question they're asking, those are the best kind of movies.
Yeah, but
because then you're questioning what question you're supposed to ask.
And that does make you think. That's right. That's good. But like, is that worth? Like, is it worth? Like, why is it not worth stating?
Because I don't know. Well, I feel like this is a whole nother topic because this movie is not like the movies that I'm referring
No,
to.
definitely not.
And I talk like I watch all of these movies that are like this, but I've only really seen a couple of movies that are truly like the movies that I'm describing as like being extremely like surreal and not concrete. Like there's only been a couple that I've actually watched. But anyway, plot holes. We talked a lot about the plot holes of the like interaction between his parents.
Yeah, I think his parents, Luca's storyline, the uncle whole thing, just bringing that whole thing up.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like it was in there for just plot, and they didn't really expound upon like the parent relationship. And then his mom's just like, "Oh yeah, go to school." Where did the school thing come from? Like,
yeah.
I don't think the school thing was needed at all.
It came up very suddenly, and it was surprisingly
they needed a way for him to say goodbye to everyone to get that Pixar sadness.
It's just like, okay, now you're just gonna leave your family and go to the educational paradise where you'll learn, everything.
Because I feel like what's the choice? It's like I either stay home and live my life as I did, or I can go to this new world that I just discovered with Alberto. But then like three-fourths way through the movie, it's just like, oh yeah, there's also a third option, school. And I'm just like, wait, what?
And I'm gonna pick the third option.
Yeah, and everyone's just all of a sudden like completely okay with it.
Yeah, I don't. It was odd. That's definitely a big plot hole in the movie. So I don't know. I feel like I'm just getting tired now.
I like school, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
Zach loves school.
I don't love it. I like certain classes.
Zach's motivated to do school.
I am motivated, but I like certain classes. A lot of classes I think are super pointless and dumb. I'm serious. Like there are classes out there that are so dumb and waste of time. And gen ed should not be something that I get it. You have to like make everyone go out of the same system so that you can compare people because there's competition between different jobs and careers and stuff like that. But I shouldn't have to take like the dumbest classes ever to go for the major that I want to go for.
Yeah, but at least their grade
I don't care. I'd be more motivated doing a class that I want to pursue as a career.
Yeah, that's true.
And get a good grade in that, because then it's like, oh, your GPA is this. Like that doesn't tell you anything about how good you are at what you want to do in the future. That tells you how good you are at taking dumb classes.
That's absolutely. I mean,
anyway,
you can't really argue that.
Sorry.
Stock market. I'm investing in Pixar, like so much money in Pixar. I don't think the Pixar train is stopping anytime soon.
I'll probably invest at least. I only have like what, $3 billion.
Yeah.
I'll probably invest 2.8.
I think there was a point in time that Pixar looked like it was like a little bit on the edge of like
after Cars 3.
Well, think of all the sequels.
Yeah, they did a lot of those in a row.
Monsters University, Finding Dory, Incredibles 2,
Cars 3.
Cars 3, Toy Story 3 and 4. They were all made in sort of the same era, and not all of them were bad. Some of them were actually really good, but they were all not original ideas. And there were a few original ideas in there that were really good, like Up and Wall-E had been before, Ratatouille was sort of before that era, and then Inside Out came out at some point.
Yeah, Inside Out was in the mix of sequels.
And then The Good Dinosaur sort of flopped. That's one of the ones I've never watched because it was always sort of like...
It was okay. It's on the lower end.
Yeah, a lot of people are just like, yeah, it's just fine, but it's nothing, crazy. And I'll get to it at some point. But that they've really rebounded nicely from that. I think I'm trying to think what movie brought them. I mean, Toy Story 4 was excellent.
Oh yeah, very good.
And then you have Onward, which was pretty good, and then this Soul and Luca and Coco, all of those.
Yeah, Coco's very
I'm
good.
saying them in the wrong order, but there was sort of like a new era of original ideas, and that's one of the biggest things that Pixar does that other studios aren't doing, is that they're still making ideas that are new worlds and new places, and they've started recently exploring different cultures, kind of like, not this is like an Italian look at Italian culture. So that's actually a really interesting thing to do with this type of movie.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. I think it's good.
And they did it with Coco and with Soul to some extent.
The next movie's coming out. The next one is called Turning Red, and it's about a little girl that when she gets excited, she turns into a big red panda. So that's another original idea that I think is just like, okay, that's very original.
That's a sort of a weird, premise to start with too.
And then the next movie after that is called Lightyear.
Oh, and that one is a cool idea because it's
the actual movie so like the Toy Story franchise within it, in the stories, in the movies, Buzz Lightyear is a toy based off of a movie. He's like an action figure based off of the movie. And Lightyear is that movie.
Yeah.
And Chris Evans is Buzz Lightyear.
That is so like the side of me that loves like meta like things. That's like that's amazing. That's like almost too much.
And it's not like a toy. This is like a human or alien, whatever he is, Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger movie, and that's
with
so
Zorg
cool.
and everything.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So those are the next two. They haven't announced anything after that, I don't think.
No, I'm trying to think whether they'll make any sequel. A lot of these movies that they've made aren't really movies that can have sequels. Like it's different. Like the first era of Pixar
Soul
movies.
2. He makes the same mistake.
Yeah, like
the same
you're not gonna make Up 2. You're not gonna make Soul 2.
If they make an Up 2.
The only thing that they could do, maybe they could do an Inside Out with like tackling, but that would even be, you'd have to go in the teenage years, which would be the topics you'd have to cover in that sort of coming of age movie would be like a little bit too much for like younger audiences.
Incredibles 3.
Maybe Incredibles 3. I think they'll probably make Incredibles 3.
They're doing. Pixar isn't done actually. I forgot. Monsters at Work is a TV show going on Disney Plus, and it stars actual Mike Wazowski and.
That'll be cool.
And Sully. So like that's an actual Monsters Inc. TV show, and it takes place after Monsters Inc. So it's the first time we'll see them since 2004 or something.
Wait, who's the guy who plays Mike Wazowski?
I can't remember. I know John Goodman plays Sully.
Yeah, I love John Goodman.
Mike Wazowski.
Billy Crystal, yeah.
Wait, scroll up. It says Mike Wazowski's 18, and he's 18 in Monsters University, 28 in Monsters Inc. Okay,
yes, it's like 10 years after. Oh yeah, they probably figured that out after Monsters University, because then they have a time frame to like, because they probably said like 10 years later is when Monsters Inc. was or whatever. All right, so we'll be back next week with something. But for now, what are your final conclusions on Luca?
This is the second time watching it. I liked it better the first time, mainly because I watched it like by myself, and I get really emotional by myself.
He doesn't reveal any emotions when people are around him, though. Very conveniently.
It was a very, very nice movie. I really enjoyed it. I think the friendship thing was great. I think the animation was great. It's Pixar, so I'm probably gonna love it anyway, unless it's like a really poorly made sequel. Yeah, I don't know. There were some plot holes here and there, but overall, I really I'd rewatch this a few more times, but not like right now. But like I'd rewatch it a few more times.
Yeah,
at least.
Pixar have high rates of rewatchability, generally speaking. Yeah. The one thing was a lot of Pixar movies really get me. There was, I guess, sort of parts that maybe got me a little bit emotionally at the end, but I sort of was like, it didn't seem like they earned the payoff, even though you sort of get it because you're like, put yourself in the situation and be like, how would I react to this? But I think as compared to some of the recent Pixar movies, this one doesn't emotionally sort of resonate with me as much as the other ones did. Soul, I bring it up so much because Soul was a movie that I felt like I thought some of the thoughts, even though I'm not as old as the main character, but like looking back on my life, like in the future, I like if I didn't accomplish what I'm thinking now, I want to accomplish. How would I view that? Was really a question that the movie tackled and like explained in a way that resonated with me. This movie didn't have something like that, so it couldn't really be at that level. And I think it borrows some from Finding Nemo, and I just think Finding Nemo is better. So
Yeah.
so, but I think it's a very nice and a very solid addition to the Pixar, group of films. So, yeah, it's now time to close the vault.
All right. Silencio, Bruno.
Silencio Bruno, Silencio Bruno, Silencio Bruno.